Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the Culture Nerd Podcast. Guess what? I am still here. I am your host, Taylor Murphy. I've got Michael Santel with me. We're going to sit down and we're going to talk about some stuff that we wanted to talk about last week, but my baby decided to come a little early, so we had to delay everything. So we're going to talk about this week. We're going to talk about what's going on with the Batman Part 2, because over the last 10 days or so, the internet has been just been losing its mind, thinking that this film was canceled or this rumor after this rumor. Who knows what's been going on? We're going to talk a lot about what actually is happening behind the scenes. We're also going to talk about Transformers, some behind the scenes drama that I've heard between productions, and some news that's probably going to piss some people off, including Michael. I haven't told him about this yet. He's probably going to be upset when I tell him. We're going to talk about Star Wars: The Acolyte. They are now 4 episodes in over the course of the last 2 weeks. We both have plenty of thoughts about this show. And we're also going to talk about the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers reboot, because there's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes on that. So sit down, strap in, and let's start off by talking about the Batman.
First and foremost, congratulations on baby number 2.
3.
Listen,
Yeah.
It's your Gen 2. It's part of the bigger family. Are you raising a Chikorita or are you doing a Totodile?
Well, I mean, this little guy is baby number 3, but he's technically my blood number 2. So, I mean, stepson is the oldest, but this is the third baby in the family. I don't know if I'm going to do the Pokemon thing with him with Gen 2 or just let him pick from Gen 1 again. I think because the toddler right now, he chose a Charmander. That was his when I set them all in front of him, he did that. It might be kind of fun to do a Gen 2 selection, but that means I'd have to go out and buy Chikorita and Cyndaquil, because I have a Totodile. Totodile was my Gen 2 pick, because Charmander was always my Gen 1 pick. Totodile was my Gen 2. And I don't know. I just like that alligator. Like, he was so cool.
He was so cool.
He was so cool. But now, baby is doing great. He is a little fatty. He was the biggest of the 3 that has been born. And in 4 days, he already met his birth weight, because babies are born at a weight, they lose some weight, then they have to work their way back up. He already made his birth weight and has now surpassed it. So he's little chunkers.
I had another friend give birth to a baby, so I asked them lots of things. Did the baby pee? Is the baby peeing fine? How are the baby's fluids doing, other than all the milk? Great.
Baby's great. He is sleeping better at night now. After the first week, he went from sleeping 2 hours and wake up to be fed. Now he's sleeping 3 to 4. So we're able to we're just taking turns. One time I'll sleep, wake up for the first feeding, and then go back to sleep, or we'll just change it up. So either way, one of us is getting a full night's sleep, and then we're just kind of alternating.
Taylor, staying up all night, you sound like a Batman. And speaking of Batman, now listen, I was unaware that there was drama. That being said, they are promoting the hell out of this Penguin show.
Yes,
there is no way that the Batman 2 is not happening.
Right. So there was this rumor that came through. I'm not sure where the outlet got this information, but there was a website, a social media site, that said the Batman Part 2 may be delayed to 2026, 2027. And they just kept, and everyone just lost their mind saying, nope, it's not delayed. It's canceled. It's dead. The world is over. Everyone just started losing its mind collectively. And the reality was that, no, none of that's true. Matt Reeves is still working on the project. He's still writing the script. And until the script is done, it's going to they're going to play it by ear, but it's not dead. So despite what everyone is trying to say online, the project is not dead. With that, we had a fun little scooper that came out of the woodwork. And this is another one of those, I love it when this happens. My Time to Shine said, the rumor I heard is they'll shoot Batman's Part 2 and 3 back to back next year. And no sooner did she publish this than James Gunn came in and said, no, it's not happening. Right?
I don't think they can get. See, the movie being delayed kind of resonates with me only because I don't know what Patterson's schedule is.
That's actually part of why it's being delayed.
Right.
The reality is that they have a big cast that is full of people that are busy. And they, by not having the script done because of the writer's strike and the actor strike and everything that started happening, just meant that the project got delayed. And with that, as soon as projects started moving again, they dealt with the obvious fact that now there is more issues with just that going on, like the project got delayed because the script wasn't ready, and then the other actors just kind of made it happen that way. Hold on, I'm getting a text from someone.
They signed contracts to do movies because that's what movie stars do.
Yeah. The moment that Hollywood reopened, a lot of these people who were like wanted are still wanted, and they're still going to be busy. So if there was ever a time when Robert Pattinson would have appeared in The Penguin, that probably was before the strikes happened. So I'm not holding my breath that his character is. I'm not expecting a Batman cameo.
Now, I will tell you this. I am worried about this momentum that the first movie was like, oh boy, more of this, please. Then we got the writer's strike.
Yep.
They have spent that time finishing the Penguin show. My fear is that this franchise will just never get that clickety-click speed where we are anticipating the next one.
Right. And I think that's actually a sad reality, is that people are now realizing that because of these strikes, we are probably not going to get that same momentum with the excitement factor, because this movie definitely had, like, the Batman was a unique take on the character, and a lot of people were not expecting to love it as much as they did. And then when it came out, everyone was like, holy shit, I want more. But then the universe kind of flipped in on itself. Like, you had this sad reality that a lot of the people who made the film, a lot of the production side of people who made this film were booted from WB because they were part of the problem. And then the Batman Part 2 was going to come in as the new Elseworlds brand, but then the strikes happened. We lost almost a year out of Hollywood. And while in the middle of this, they were filming a show that was necessary to bridge the first two movies, and that show was put on hold. And now it's finally coming out, and the trailer looks absolutely fantastic. But we're still stuck in this spot where, it's going to be a little while before we see anything.
Do you think it's going to look like, without that staff, do you think it looks different?
No.
Do you think, no? Okay, so then it's just
I think it's going to be fine.
Morale thing?
No, I think it might actually benefit them. But the fact that they lost all these people who were trying to make this thing not the Snyderverse, I think maybe it might benefit them that this project is going to be coming forward without these people. Because it's going to let Matt Reeves work the way he wants to work. Because, I mean, they were so hell-bent on making these projects the antithesis of the Snyderverse. That, I mean, a lot of people don't realize that when they commissioned Matt Reeves to make the Batman, they had also commissioned James Gunn to make the Superman or Superman Legacy. And their idea was that we're just going to set up a new universe separate from the DC EU, and it's going to be as different as humanly possible. So they were trying to make a separate Batman and Superman universe just because they didn't want it to feel like the Snyderverse.
Well, they successfully set up a Batman universe. I don't know how you put the shining light of tomorrow into that universe. That whole movie was dark. There was one shot of the sun near the end of the movie when things were getting hopeful. I don't know if, I don't think I don't want Superman in that universe. And whatever James Gunn's Batman's going to be, he needs to be introduced into his universe.
And I think James Gunn's universe with that Batman, that whatever they're doing with it is going to be very interesting.
Do you think we get a funny Batman? Do you think we
No,
get like a Star-Lord Batman?
not at all. Actually, I don't think we're going to get any of that. What I think we're going to get is a Batman that is more akin to the comics. I think we're going to get a Batman that's like more fantastical than what we've seen in a long time. Not quite like, I don't know, maybe a more serious take on what we got with Batman Forever. That's
Yeah, but you're talking about Giant Penny. You're talking about Dinosaur. You're talking about him fighting magic monsters and like huge backflips and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking we're going to get. Is more of the gray and blue and Batman just being Batman, you know? That's kind of what I'm like, what people expected from the comics. Like, I want to see Batman be taken seriously, like he's a dude. But this is also going to be the Batman who knows everything, the Batman who has a gadget or who's always prepared for the battle. Like, oh, I'm fighting Mr. Freeze, so here's 25 items in my utility belt that could be used against him.
That might be why they're introducing the Bat family, because that Batman doesn't grow. He grows in that each week he beats his villains in a new creative way, but like he doesn't. He's a finalized adult person. Maybe we can watch the kids make mistakes.
And that's what I think that they're going to do. Because one of my things about, as you know, in projects of script writing and storytelling, you need to have a character who acts as the proxy for the audience. And you always do this in a way to allow a character to ask the questions that the audience may be thinking. And with the Nolan movies, that was Batman. He was always asking the question to Alfred. And in the new Batman movie, in The Batman, we didn't get that as much. Alfred was there, but he wasn't standing as the proxy for the audience.
It was Commissioner Gordon.
It was Commissioner Gordon.
Gordon asks all the questions and does all the like, does all the like whispering in his ear.
Yeah, but even then, it was more of it was like whoever was in the room with Batman was the proxy for the audience. And yes, I do see the question. Did you see my comment? Yes, we are going to talk about the Superman set photos. There's some set photos that came out the last few days that I want to talk about because a lot of people on the internet are freaking out because of reasons, thinking that the project is now set in the 70s, which I don't think it is. And I've said why.
His parents are set in the 70s. They're probably doing some flashback stuff.
I think it could be a flashback thing, but it could also be some other stuff too.
Listen, time travel is a dime a dozen, and I don't know when they want to get into all of that, but I think that that's fine. So, Batman is a go.
Yeah, the Batman is still very much happening. So, for everyone who thinks that the Batman was quietly canceled, it is not quietly canceled. There's nothing to worry about. I think that the internet is just collectively scared that it is going to be canceled, but even James Gunn has multiple times this week said no. The project is not dead. It is not canceled. There's nothing to worry about. It is just a sad set of circumstances that have led it to be repeatedly delayed. That's the reality.
Well, you brought up delays. Tell me about what these delays are that might be happening with Transformers.
So with Transformers, so this
also, is something... Taylor, where are we with Transformers? We're getting ready for Transformers G.I. Joe, correct? Do people know that that's what's happening?
So that is actually what I wanted to talk about because I heard something very unfortunate. And as people are probably wondering, I'm actually building a Gundam kit right now because I'm trying to work on my backlog at the same time. I'm building this really cool one. So for people who watch The Witch from Mercury, there was a manga that did a bunch of backstory stuff, and there was a bunch of other Gundams that were introduced in that manga. I picked up one from that manga, and he's a blue guy that has like crazy laser swords and like true blue laser swords.
Love it.
He's actually pretty rad looking, but I'm like halfway done on this guy. So, anyways, I heard an unfortunate thing. So someone I know. I was able to talk to a certain voice actor And the
Ooh.
voice actor confirmed he will not be reprising his role in the Transformers franchise. And this is a role that has been such a huge deal for the Transformers franchise. And from what this person revealed,
Does that
was
speak
that
of a reboot, a new starting day one Transformers? Here's brand new Optimus Prime.
brand new Optimus Prime is introduced in Transformers 1, that ridiculously weird animated project that I don't think any actual longtime Transformers fan is excited for.
No,
But
I'm excited to watch this when it's streaming on Paramount Plus.
right.
And actually forgot I actually forgot about this movie. Has this movie been released?
No, it's coming out later this year. But the unfortunate news was that this person said not only were they told that they were done with the role, but that all of the cast members from Transformers 1 were moving forward into the Transformers G.I. Joe project.
Oh,
Meaning
wow.
this project, even though it was teased at the end of the Transformers Rise of the Beast,
Right.
it's not really going to be connected to Rise of the Beast. It's going to be, and the reality is that the Transformers Rise of the Beast was Transformers, let's see,
1, 2, 3.
7 or 8. And
Is that including the Bumblebee movie?
yes, and
Okay.
it was the lowest grossing of the entire franchise.
Yeah.
So I think the studio realized that, or not really realized, I think the studio decided unanimously that we need to get bigger names attached to these projects if we want people to show up.
And
And
they're
that
going to do it through the voice actors.
they're doing it through the voice actor. So Chris Hemsworth is going to stay as Optimus Prime going forward.
But this is also because the movies were bad. I mean,
No,
the
Bumblebee
first.
and Rise of the Beast weren't bad. They were fantastic.
Let me rephrase.
They messed up on the other 5.
Yeah, and that the fact that the IP itself is no longer strong enough, it needs to be Chris Hemsworth in Transformers to get an audience.
Yeah. So the photos that people are like, oh, G.I. Joe and Transformers. No, it's going to be G.I. Joe and Transformers, but not this G.I. Joe, not this Transformers. It's going to be whatever the hell Paramount wants to do with it. So it definitely sounds like Peter Cullen and Frank Welker, every other actor that we want as the voices of Optimus, Megatron, everybody, they're not them anymore.
Is there any chance that this all just becomes animated? Or do you think
I legitimately think that this Transformers G.I. Joe project is going to be animated.
Yeah, I just feel like the money you would have to spend to make it a theatrical movie, which is what was promised to you, which is why you are upset. I don't think they want to spend it. And I think if you do it animated, you can do the scope that you want to for a fraction of the budget.
Yeah. I mean, the Transformer, and a lot of people are like, so how is this happening? And I think it comes down to the fact that Hasbro, who has been just pissing off fans left and right lately, we'll talk about another thing that they pissed off recently. Hasbro has their new E1 Pictures or whatever, their production arm that is now giving them creative control over their IPs. With the Bay films, they didn't have creative control. They didn't really have it with Bumblebee as much. And now that they have more creative control, they're just saying, to hell with it all. We're going to reboot it on our own terms. And I think a lot of people aren't really happy with them doing it this way, because Transformers G1 is what most people think of when they think of Transformers. When they think of Beast Wars, they think of Beast Wars. What we got with Rise of the Beast was this weird, not quite the Beast Wars, not quite the Transformers. It was what it was. But it was set in the 90s, and it was fun, and it worked. But there was no big names except for 2 or 3 of the voice actors. They had Michelle Yeoh as Airraiser, who went out really fast, and they had Ron Perlman as Optimus Primal, which most people didn't even realize it was Ron Perlman. But even then, Pete, what's his face? I just forgot his name.
Stoner comedian.
Yeah, Pete Davidson. He was the biggest name in that cast, and he was the dude's blue Transformer. It was one of those films that I think people were like, I think the studio was expecting more than what they got, but I think at the same time, I think people are kind of over the wonderment of the live action Transformers films, and I think that's why they're deciding they're going to reboot it in a very nonchalant way. And it's also going to piss people off who were expecting a 90s Transformers G.I. Joe film with the same cast and crew, especially if members, I mean, if they make that live action film, if they do make it live action, it's going to be weird not hearing Peter Cullen voice Optimus. It's going to be weird hearing Bumblebee now have a voice from the guy from Key and Peele, Keegan-Michael Key. As Bumblebee. It's going to be weird hearing that. It's going to be weird with the voices of this animated project superimposed in the live action universe. So I 100% think this is going to be an animated project now.
Do you think that in the project we get G.I. Joes inside of the Transformers, or do you think we get a tiny Transformer? Like inside of Optimus Prime, he takes out the ignition key and that turns into a 6'4" RoboCop looking dude who's like, I can go on the mission. Or no, I can go on the mission. I mean, he's Australian, right? I can go on the mission with you, mate. Like, yeah.
It's got to be Australian. No, I don't know what they're going to do with it. Because, I mean, in the G.I. Joe comics, the G.I. Joe Transformers comics, it was always like the G.I. Joes are all riding in the Jeep and the Jeep happens to be Bumblebee. And then they fight together and Storm Shadow is riding Ravage while Snake Eyes is on top of Optimus's shoulder as they're fighting. Like they have always these weird plots where like Megatron is joining Commander Cobra and Cobra's like, help me take over the world and I'll give you all the Energon. And he's like, hell yeah, let's do it, brother. And then they fight together. And that's kind of how it always is. Like it's this weird, like mutually assured teammate thing. So
yeah, I think they're going to go. I think that they're going to make this for kids 10 and under, Taylor. I think that whatever adult serious Transformers is, I think that's over.
Yeah, and I think the reason why a lot of fans are very not happy with this whole Transformers 1 animated project is 100% because the trailer looked like it was made for 10-year-olds. And a lot of people were like, no, we just had like a decade and a half, almost 2 decades worth of grown-up Transformers, and you kind of shut the bed here. And I think another thing is that Transformers fans have kind of given up on Paramount's take on it.
Yeah.
Because you've had, in the 90s and the early 2000s, you had so many different tellings of the Transformers universe. And then Hasbro made Transformers Prime, and that was like a pretty solid Transformers animated show, and it was made by the same people who made the movies. It was like, okay, they're searching for the Allspark. Here's 3 humans. Here's the Sector 7, whatever they are, their version of it. They had a really funny, like they hyped up Dwayne Johnson doing the voice of Clip Jumper, and then they killed him in like 20 minutes in the first episode. Right. So it was like this really funny, like, wow, bait and switch, guys. But the more recent stuff, like Transformers Earthrise and all this stuff, a lot of people have not liked the show because the show made Megatron a good guy, and he's like on the team with Optimus, and they're
bad guys becoming good guys, I guess, is in the water. We'll get to that when we talk about Star Wars.
Yeah, but then there's like I think there was even like a bunch of right-wing people denounced the show because they had like this whole like multi-episode plot about genderless characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and they're like, no, this is a kid's show. What the fuck are you doing, Paramount? And that, so a lot of people are pissed
also,
off.
They're fucking robots. Why does gender matter at all for robots?
But it wasn't the robots that did it. It was actually a bunch of the human characters came across, and the Transformers like, I can relate to you because we as Transformers can be whatever we want to be. And I'm like, why the fuck is this a conversation?
Why does that? Okay.
Like, why does this matter? So it was like a lot of people got annoyed with it. A lot of people got pissed off, and Transformers Earthrise, it's probably not going to last much longer because its numbers. Well, I mean, Paramount's squandering anyways, right? I mean, how many people were trying to buy Paramount that have now backed out of the conversation? The only person that's legitimately still in the conversation to buy Paramount is now Sony, and they're trying to low cut them hardcore.
Listen, I can't get Paramount on my PS5. I have to go to another app. I have to go to my other console. So I feel like I only watch it for Survivor at this point. Is there any content on there that besides the CBS stuff that matters?
My wife and I watch Survivor and The Challenge, and that's about it.
Right. So they're old MTV legacy stuff that us millennials are watching, but like, no one's. I mean, how did the Knuckles thing do? Did that do pretty good numbers?
Oh, I heard it actually did really good, and I haven't sat down and watched it. I have time now, but I haven't sat down and watched it. But yeah, I guess aside from that, they haven't really had a lot of big hits. I mean, Paramount Plus is one of those things that their biggest sell point recently was absorbing Showtime. And I was like, by the way, we have Showtime on here. And even then, they're still not doing that great.
And they're making you pay a premium for it.
No, they're not. It's just part of it now.
Oh, I think we paid for it. I got it early on.
Well, you probably got it when it was part of the premium, and then they just made it standard.
Now it's all standard.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like the fact that Sony has the weakest movie catalog, but I feel like they really want into the game.
Sony does and doesn't have the weakest movie catalog.
I got a Sony TV, Taylor. I got access to that Sony Movies channel. The new stuff's all great. The stuff they're licensing, garbage.
Right. So the Sony app thing that they put on for like PlayStation Plus users, like that's just kind of like okay, that's dumb. And everyone kind of just moved on. But they as a company are crazy rich. They know what they're doing company-wise. I feel like just Columbia Pictures still doesn't know what they're doing. And that's really how it is. Because everyone's like, oh, let's blame Sony for everything wrong with the Spider-Man franchise, but it's still technically under Columbia TriStar. And they've just got the wrong producing staff on the Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah, because you're right. They there are good films from them, but it feels so hit and miss with them, right? Yeah. There's not a consistency to them. Right.
And I mean, we said it before, like Madam Web, the first maybe 45 minutes of that movie, fantastic. Second half, what the fuck happened?
So Taylor said that. I thought that there is a movie in there somewhere, but they didn't find it.
They didn't find it. Unfortunately, they did not find it.
Paramount, Sony's going to buy them. You think it's going to happen?
I think if Paramount gets desperate, because the current offer I think from Sony is like a third of what WB was offering. So it's like a massive, like, hey, we're going to undercut you so low that you have to counter us with the number we actually want. So, but if Sony buys Paramount, that's a huge, huge thing. But again, Paramount has had nothing bad press the last 6 to 8 months because of all the shit with Nickelodeon, because of losing Tom Cruise, because of like everything in the news lately with Paramount is, by the way, Paramount is full of pedophiles.
The Nickelodeon stuff is so bad because so bad. There was the initial reaction and people were talking about it. And then they started going they went to other kids that weren't in the documentary. And then their stories are fucking horrific. Like their stories were like, oh my goodness, differently bad.
Yeah. And then they went back to that guy, that producer who was like the main target of the thing.
He did that terrible puff piece.
He's like, I'm going to sue them. And then like the court stuff is like, you can't sue them. You have more people saying that you're a monster than you did during the interview. Like it's so bad. It's just so bad.
I feel like that's not my Nickelodeon. I feel like we aged out, but now I want to ask the like salute your shorts guy. Like those kids, like, did you feel pressure to doing things?
I want to know if the cast of Hey Dude had some issues.
Taylor, they had to have had some issues, right? Like that's the problem. Like they gave this power to this one dude who's into feet and doing weird stuff, and everyone's got weird stories about him.
But all those shows that we watched, like The Legend of Alex Mack, the Hey Dude, all that
stuff. Love it.
That was all pre this guy. So I think it was a different time. I think we're definitely okay.
I liked the one show on SNCC that was the family that was lost in space, and it had the Black Ranger on it.
Oh, yeah. That was a cool show.
It was a great show. It had the girl from Flash Forward, and then they killed her off when she got that show.
Yeah. There was so many weird shows that they made back then.
All of them. And it makes me, the fact that Pete and Pete still holds up and I can have fond memories of it. And I'm not worried about those kids being molested because that's what happened to the other kids. Like it's awful.
All the other shows. Yeah. Because Amanda Bynes is a train wreck of a human being right now. And we all know why now. Unfortunately.
Dude, I wonder that season was so dynamite. The show was so shocking. I wonder if they go now get Amanda could be a whole season by herself. That's 3 episodes of her just telling her truth.
Yeah. And that would be insane. And people would show up for it.
Oh, it's so dark. I mean, I feel like new Nickelodeon is incubated from it, but it pollutes this whole catalog of 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Is Nickelodeon done? Is it just going to be SpongeBob cartoons now?
It might be. I think people are now getting wise to how bad this universe is. I'm trying to pull up some of these set photos for Superman that people are now asking me about because I have some on my computer.
Okay. We can talk. We can get into Superman.
We'll talk about that. So the next thing that I want to talk about was the Paramount, and not Paramount, Hasbro, just pissing off fans. So it came to light this last week that the long-awaited, the long-gestating, the who knows how long we've been waiting for this Netflix reboot of Power Rangers is now dead. And it died because Hasbro, I keep thinking about Paramount, Hasbro and Netflix couldn't get their shit straight on what they wanted to do with this reboot.
Is this a Netflix problem because they don't know how to get onto retail shelves and now this is finally biting them in the ass?
So no, it's not actually. So a lot of people are like, how dare you, Netflix, for screwing this up? But it turns out that behind the scenes, some deals were made that everything that Netflix had thought they were paying for resulted in you're going to get these 2 or 3 TV shows of these random projects. And instead of giving you a live action reboot for Power Rangers, we'll make an animated Power Rangers with you. And Netflix is like, that's not what we fucking signed up for.
No, so they want people, costumes, choreography.
They wanted to make something more akin to the 2017 movie where it was like, these are live action. This is going to be darker, but modern. And they had all these plans. And then Hasbro kind of like undercut them behind the scenes. And so obviously people, the whole thing fell apart. And
first and foremost, I want to say how sorry I am to the Power Ranger fandom and all of those actors that probably thought that they were going to get a chance to get another crack at this. And I'm really sad to hear that. Is anybody else talking about picking up this ball?
So after
if they do an animated show of the Power Rangers are dead. If they just make that an animated show, I think that Power Rangers will never be what it is again.
I think that's what makes it tricky because the most recent Power Rangers show that Netflix made with Hasbro, the Power Rangers Space, whatever it was, where it's like the continuation of one of the other shows. What is their new show called? It was one of the first times that Power Rangers went on their own without anybody, right? They didn't have. Power Rangers Once and Always was what Netflix got out of this, and the new Power Rangers season. And that new season,
I didn't even know there was a new season.
It was the Cosmic Fury. It was the sequel to Dino Fury. So what Netflix got was Power Rangers Once and Always, the last season of Dino Fury, and the 110 episode season of Cosmic Fury. And
that's not what they want. Not what they wanted.
No, that's not what they wanted at all because they wanted to make this reboot project that was taken from them. So unfortunately, now they're going back to the drawing board. They're again, Hasbro is now looking for a new partner to solidify on it. And the only rumblings I have heard was that it was stuck between just a few different buyers coming in. Sony was looking at it. Lionsgate was looking at it. And on one hand, Lionsgate had made the 2017 movie, so I think they already know what they're kind of in for. Like, hey, we could do this. We did it before for pretty cheap. We can do this again, but let us have control. And if Sony takes it, Sony Japan actually has ties in history with Toei, which is the parent company of Super Sentai.
I wonder if it would be like that that movie I just watched, that crazy movie with the Zodiac Knights movie.
I don't think it would go that route.
You don't think so? Because that movie was there are parts of that movie I hate, and there's parts of that movie I really like.
Okay. I don't know if they would go that route with it. It would be interesting if they did, but I think they want to make a series out of it. And I think if anything, so I heard the rumor was that those are the two major buyers, but it sounds like Lionsgate is coming in ahead just because they actually have a proven history with the Power Rangers IP. So I could see Lionsgate being announced as the winner of this competition and them getting it.
I also feel that the world is so that Godzilla -1 was so good. And I feel like there is a hunger for this content to feel
Authentic?
truthful to a Japanese audience. I
Yeah.
think they should just do a Japanese season and just dub it into English. I think people would be okay with that.
I do and I don't, because I don't think enough people today know what Super Sentai is actually like. I think they're probably like, yeah, let's get the Japanese Power Rangers. It's going to be better. Japanese Power Rangers Super Sentai is super weird. American Power Rangers, as we know it, is like teenagers in Angel Grove, and they've got morphers. Japanese Super Sentai is like, we are 6 supernatural beings from this mythical kingdom. And it's like, it's way different. But it could be a lot of fun, but it's also could be very, very weird for people.
In the interim, if you are a Power Ranger fan and are sad about this, I highly recommend that you go watch Go Go Ghost Ranger.
Loser Ranger. Go Go Loser Ranger.
Thank you, Taylor. They look shadowy. Go Go Loser Ranger. It just started. I'm watching it on Hulu. It is a super silly world, and it scratches all of the nerves of my Power Ranger liking. Really funny. A really fun take on the universe. I highly recommend it.
So, for those who haven't seen me talk about this before, it is a project that I've been waiting for a while, and I didn't realize that Hulu had picked it up. And I checked last night after Michael said go watch it, and sure enough, they have like 8 episodes of it already. Basically, the Power Rangers have defeated their villain after the first battle, but then have been slaving them and to keep weekly battles going so they can supplant their power. So the Power Rangers are now the bad guys as they're trying to choreograph this like masterful way of keeping their superiority over society. It's like
amazing.
Holy crap, this is amazing.
And it's really funny. And the putties they're basically the like characters we follow, and they all look the same, but they just have like numbers and letters differentiating them. It's really fun.
So it's definitely a very interesting take on the project, and I'm like, I kind of love the idea. So yes, go over to Hulu, go Loser Rangers. It's exactly what you probably think it is, and it's just as weird as you're expecting it to be.
So I'm flipping through the apps on my PlayStation 5 in my mind right now. So we're not going to go to Amazon yet because I don't want to talk about The Boys. I haven't started it yet, but let's go over and click on Disney Plus. Taylor, I have purposely not texted or said anything to you about the Acolyte because I wanted to see where it was going. Also, I feel like the internet hates it so badly. I feel like they're more mad at what Lucasfilms has done to Star Wars, but it is coming off in this show. But Taylor, where are you at with this? Are you watching it week to week? Where did it lose you? Like, all of this, there's Smilo Ren. I wanted this to have so much promise, and unfortunately, the more I watch it, the more I am disappointed with it.
Yes. So that's kind of how I feel too. So I'm watching the show. I'm watching every episode. It's no fault of the cast. They are trying their best, I can tell. But what I think is the issue here is
that young kid. They put a beard on him and it was like, now he's an old guy. He looks like a kid. He looked like a kid here. He looks like a kid in episode 2.
All right. So the funniest thing happened, and I'll tell you this because I want your honest reaction. I was watching the episode. I was watching it. My wife is just sitting there kind of tuning in, kind of. And she sees that scene where he's floating there, and she's like, is that a lady wearing a beard? I'm like, no. And she's like, I'm like, no, that's the kid from Game of Thrones. And she's like, why does he look so dumb looking? And I'm like, they tried to age him up, and I think they did it wrong. And like,
what kid was he in Game of Thrones?
He was the king who killed himself. The one who was like, my wife had died and jumped out the window. Wow. He was the good Lannister. The one the only good Lannister.
The little boy.
Yeah, the little boy who became king, who married the really
hot chick from the Tudors.
Yes, and then when she died, he's the one who just like stepped out the window and fell forward. Like, that was him. That was this guy.
Didn't even recognize him as a man from Westeros. I only thought of him as a kid with a beard on.
Yeah, with like a weird facial scar and like receding hairline and a really ugly looking beard.
Listen, they did a rock cliff jumper in this show where they promised us Trinity from the Matrix, and then spoiler, in the first 7 minutes of the episode. She's no longer there, even though
then we saw her again in the flashbacks.
We saw her again in the flashback.
And there is another episode that's going to feature a very heavy flashback, because your complaint for this episode 4 was that they teased the Wookiee fight and then they killed him off screen.
Let's get into it, because the first 2 episodes I feel like the internet said was bad, and then they said episode 3 is the most decisive.
And episode 3 wasn't that great in my opinion. I think episode 3.
But Taylor, I don't feel there's all these nerds. Now tell me if I'm doing copium. Tell me if I'm the people that are defending this.
Did you say if I'm doing copium? Is that the new word that we're using?
The copium, right? I'm coping. I'm doing the copium. When this cult described the Force the way that they have described it, I feel like in Star Wars canon, there's been other groups that have used the Force. By the time Palpatine took over, he killed all those groups, but like it didn't bother me that they interpreted this supernatural thing differently. I didn't find that offensive.
I wasn't against that. I thought that was fine. I just felt like there were so many funny memes that came out of it. Like,
Taylor,
the dark magic to make these children. And I'm like, there were so many. I saw like a meme of it. The dark magic is just lesbian sex. And I was like,
the chant, the fact that the chant was so funny. Right? When they're like, we are the many. Like it goes. It's a comical take on the way that they did that. Then they're trying to do this Rashomon thing, but then you need to show me the other angles, because this is what I didn't like. Episode 4, I'm like, hell yeah, we're gonna see a Chewbacca Wookiee, right? Remember when in the Han Solo movie Chewbacca does that straight punch to that dude and just like falls in the mud? I thought we were gonna get that. Just like a PlayStation, like the Star Wars fighting game for the PlayStation. A Wookiee versus all of these guys.
Okay. Again, so what we're going to get in the next flashback episode when they explain what the hell actually happened, you know how they made the kids' eyes go black in that one episode and they took them over?
Yes.
They do that again, and they actually have 2 of the Jedis fighting each other. And that's why they have to like kill them, because they're using the dark magic to supplant our brains. We have to put them down. So,
and it's dark magic force, not the Sith, because the Sith haven't been present in a millennium.
But is that also like a canon breaker? Because they just put Cat Mundi in like the last episode as like, wasn't he also the dude who was like, the Sith haven't been here for a millennium? And he was in the room like being like, is this a Sith? Like, you know,
that's the thing I don't understand. Like Dave Filoni says that he's helping with all of these shows, and he knows all this.
Help on this one. He was actually off of this one. This is the show that existed before he got creative control. So this is actually not on Filoni at all.
Because it just feels like the nerds that care about it
in the room, it would have been a different show,
right? Because the nerds that care about the lore are pissed off. I am pissed off that the show. Star Wars doesn't feel movie quality anymore. That robot, whatever that red robot was, the police droid that locks him in that cage, looked like plastic. Like not even like good C-3PO stuff, like cheap. Her droid is just a cell phone. She just has a smartphone, and that's what droids are now.
And she has her PTSD Vietnam flashback on the outside of a ship that somehow is spouting fire in an oxygen-free environment because she's wearing the spacesuit. So I was like, where's this fire? How is this fire happening?
I was fine with, listen, I gave it until episode 4 when nerdy guy, the potions master guy, he's maybe Smilo Ren. I don't think he is. I think that that
they're trying to convince us that he's Smilo Ren, and
I think Smilo Ren is going to be. I think it's either going to be their mother, so that she can say, "I am your mother."
No, but we already saw her dead body.
Taylor, no, we didn't. We didn't see her face. We just saw a body.
Okay, my theory, because the creator of the show has misled us. Like, so everything that people are saying that James Gunn does to the fans, she did to the fans. Like, she has lied everything. I mean, she also said in an interview that R2-D2 is a lesbian, which I'm like, he's not a lesbian. He's clearly putting his dick into every machine in the series. So he's not a lesbian. Sorry,
you like that trash compactor?
yeah, it's just like, I mean, they made that joke in was it
Is that Family Guy joke?
Porno? They made that joke too, where like C-3PO's penis is like in every mission. But no, so he can't be a lesbian, obviously. But she said that this show was going to take the Star Wars from the Sith perspective, and we're already over the halfway point, and I've not seen the Sith perspective. So where is the Sith perspective?
I mean, I guess like if you hate the cops, I mean, the Jedi are cops, right? They're like, stop in the name of the Republic. Like, we're entering your domicile. Yeah, so like they're LAPD, and now we're going to like hurt some people.
It's also kind of funny watching the show that I was watching it and I'm like, there's like no white people. Like every white person that actually has spoken dialogue is always been
killed
in the background.
Sure.
Like no actual white people have actually had any front and center camera dialogue. I'm like, wow, they're really just saying white people are the enemy in this show. That's funny.
Listen, I'm fine with no white people. I dislike the Jedi being I understand that we're seeing them at their full hubris, but like, I don't like, they're like supposed to be like monks. They're not supposed to be like cops.
Also, I thought the internet rhetoric around the fat Jedi was really funny because everyone's like, they're like, wait, these guys are supposed to be like the peak of their existence because they're always training, and then this guy's here.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Maybe Jedis are allowed to be a little slack. Maybe he eats a lot of bonbons while he's meditating.
Everyone is like, when did the Jedi just give up on their exercise routine? Because we saw Luke doing flips and shit in the swamp. This guy can't do flips and shit in the swamp. So it was pretty funny watching just the internet rip everything. They called them all diversity hires, and I'm like, wow, you guys are just so bad right now.
They set up this Wookiee like a boss fight, and then they took it away from us. And I just feel like with all of this, my fear is that like the show might end up someplace good and like have some good stuff, but I don't think people are going to wait for it to find out.
No, the show is done decent numbers, but I don't think it will do enough to garner a second season. And if they don't tell their story completely in the season, that's it.
Oh, they better have an ending spot. I mean, the new thing that they're going to add to the canon of Star Wars, if you watched episode 3, is we're going to see if me and Taylor hold hands, we can do double force. And double force is stronger than single force.
But
and
we already had that with like Kylo Ren and like the dyad of the Force stuff. We knew what the dyad of the Force was because that's how apparently Kylo Ren and Rey are together. So
do you think that they should have just done that? And like, I would have loved to have seen oh shit and May, right? Her name is oh shit because they're always like, oh shit, what are you doing here?
Osha, not oh shit.
Okay, Osha. If Osha was trading spots with May,
you know, like the company that's supposed to be watching us for like workplace violence and danger, like Osha.
I didn't know. Okay, what if Osha sees herself? What if in the first episode we see that fight, we kill what's her name? The bad sister is stabbing her in the neck with bloody hands, and then it's Osha with blood all over her hands, standing over the body, and they're like, "Hey, you!" And she's like, "I have no idea what I'm doing here." Wouldn't
that's what I thought was going to happen with this show? But
okay,
again. The showrunner, the person who's pissing off the internet right now with everything that she says about the Star
Wars. Leslie Headland.
Sure.
She was the assistant to Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah. She said that the main inspiration of Smilo Ren is Darth Treya or Kriya from Knights of the Old Republic 2. Kriya was a character who was a good guy walking around saying, I'm a Jedi, I'm going to help you, Revan, I'm going to mentor you. And then turned out last second, like this bait and switch, by the way, I'm a Sith, and just like became a bad guy. I think when she said that, my mind immediately went to Smilo Ren is a Jedi who's right front and center, who's playing both sides.
It's got to be, do you think it's Carrie-Anne Moss?
That's who I thought it was from the beginning. That okay, they're going to bait and switch and kill her off in the first episode, and then she's going to be the main villain.
Do you think that we find out she's also part of the Coven? Yeah. And that's what the two dot tattoos or whatever on her eyes
Yeah,
are.
her prison marks for her tears for killing.
Yeah.
Her
she killed one of the sisters, so she got
Yeah.
one, and then she gets another one.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there any chance that Soul has a twin brother that's Smilo Ren?
I thought about that too. Like maybe Soul. No, but so in my mind, I'm like, Soul's got to be the bad guy. He's probably the most recognized character on the show right now. He's got to be the bad guy. But then you see him fight Smilo Ren, and I'm like, unless he's doing like the Luke Skywalker force projection, he's clearly not Smilo Ren.
The show doesn't even follow its own rules. They're like, they only pull their lightsabers if they need to. Smilo Ren shows up, and all of those Jedi rushed into battle.
Yeah. Yeah, they were like, oh, scary looking dude in black with a red lightsaber, everyone attack.
Everybody kill him. Kill him now. Kill him.
Don't ask questions. Mow him down.
Hold him down. Put your knee on his neck. We know how to do policing.
Yeah. We're going to go 21st century on his ass.
It's all, I just feel bad. I just feel, I feel like no one's going to watch it. And then it's like, is this mean like, are people going to watch The Mandalorian? Like, is this the death of other Star Wars things? Because, like, I don't think we're getting the Rey movie now.
No, we're still getting the Rey movie, but I think Dave Filoni is going to make sure the Rey movie doesn't turn out like this show. I think that in the
end, if Rey has a dyad with what's his name, do you think that he can inhabit her body and we could have Ben Solo adventures?
I would love to see Ben Solo come back in any capacity because he was the best character of the sequels, and they
him talking about where he was originally told that he was going to start off as an insecure, the opposite of Darth Vader.
Yeah,
he was going to start off insecure, and then each movie become even more powerful. So in that third movie, we really see him in his full evilness, and the fact that we didn't get that makes me so sad. The fact that we got the, never mind, I'm back to being a good guy. Ba-ba-ba-ba. And then they killed him. Like, we don't even get to play with him anymore. He's just dead.
Yeah. I was always kind of like irked. So, like, I don't know. I have thoughts. But, yeah.
Is Star Wars dead? I mean, I don't know. We're talking about Batman being dead. I'm really worried that Star Wars is donezo for a while, up until whatever Dave Filoni does.
Yeah, I think Dave Filoni is like, he's the Obi-Wan Kenobi right now of the Star Wars universe. He's got to be the only hope that's going to fix this. Because there was a lot of rumors behind the scenes that Bob Iger is severely upset with how how Star Wars has been handled by Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm in general, and this show is kind of like the icing on the cake. Like, this is Kathleen Kennedy's baby, and this is the one that the entire internet is like, fuck you, Kathleen Kennedy.
Can we say how smart Matt Parker and Trey Stone are? That they made the meme of put a chick in it, make it gay, make it lame. And that's literally what the creator of the show is talking about. Mm-hmm. That, right? It's crazy that they nailed it so hard. And basically, like, the meme has now come to fruition.
Yeah, there's like almost a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Here's the self-fulfilling prophecy of the project. And they didn't change it. They knew this was what they were going to turn in. This is the final project.
So my legit concern with this show is that people are going to start attacking for nepotism right off the bat. Because this show, there is one character on the Acolyte. Let me see, what is her name? The green chick, the bald green Jedi. What her face is?
Is she a Jedi? I thought she was just a senator.
No, she's a Jedi.
Oh, okay.
And I cannot forget what her name is. I keep forgetting what her name is.
She's on the picture. She's in the left on the picture you showed. She's the lady with the green head.
Yeah. So
yeah, that lady.
Yeah. So she's got that purple lightsaber, which I don't know. Maybe she's Smilo Ren.
Oh, she could be Smilo Ren.
And my concern is that first off, she wasn't with the group, and then the other photo they released of her is her with the group.
Why is she with the? She wasn't in the episode.
Yeah. So my concern is that she's going to turn out to be Smilo Ren, and they're going to be playing like the most obvious, like, oh, this is obviously the bad guy. Like,
are the dots on her head her circle?
No. So my other concern about this is that the actress that plays this character is actually married to the show creator. Like they're literally they're wives. Like, so everyone's gonna be like, this is straight nepotism. Like, not only did you put your wife in the show, but you made the wife the crux of the entire show. So people are probably gonna get pissed about that. If that turns out to be what it is, I think people are gonna be mad for stupid reasons. But again, nepotism, Star Wars, Hollywood. That's what Hollywood runs off of, is nepotism.
Great TV show called Rent Fair. The guy fires a guy because of nepotism. It's got a whole monologue on it. I won't do it here, but it makes me real. Taylor, I've asked you before on previous episodes, who is Star Wars made for? And I think that Star Wars is no longer made for us. I think it's made for. I think they've decided that Star Wars is going to be like princesses, and it's going to be for a different demographic, and that's fine. But it makes me sad that we don't get that avenue anymore.
I think that's actually what the problem is that for the longest time, George Lucas tried to make Star Wars accessible to everybody. And that was just what he wanted to do. He made it the way it was. And they've taken Star Wars and they're trying to market it to demographics that don't care about Star Wars.
If they've tried to make it a girls' brand. I mean, really,
they did that. They tried that. Was it the Forces of Destiny or whatever girls' brand that just bombed because no little girl cared about the brand? Like, people just didn't care. They're like, no. I mean, if I like Star Wars, I'm gonna like Chewbacca, or like I'm gonna like these things. Like, they didn't care for the pandering that they did before, and I don't think they're gonna care for the pandering they're trying to do right now. But what it's coming down to is that Star Wars was never meant to be this, and here it is. And Dave Filoni essentially is like, he is the Padawan of George Lucas, right? Like, Dave Filoni is the guy, the only natural successor to George Lucas. And when I see that whatever projects come out of the Star Wars after this, the stuff that Dave Filoni is a part of, and he's going to be creatively controlling these things and making sure they don't end up like the show. This is, to me, this show is like everything that happened with DC right before DC got rebooted, and why everyone's like, oh, look, it's ruined because of this. This was the last product that existed before Dave Filoni got creative control. And people are going to see the night and day difference between the two.
Well, you are the one, we are the two, and our audience is the many.
But we still got one more thing to talk about. I know we're going a little long today.
Hit me.
Set photos for Superman have come out showing the Daily Planet, right? So we have the Daily Planet flags. We've got the walkway to the Daily Planet, very this timeless look to it. The initial aesthetic, the bronziness of Daily Planet. People immediately start thinking the Daily Planet is set in the 70s. I mean, Superman has got to be set in the 70s because everything looks like it's from the 70s. I pointed out to everyone that this photo that came out yesterday showed Lord Tech, Samsung, and all this stuff. That Samsung logo is the logo they used in the early 2000s. So
right,
it's not in the 70s.
That's a logo I saw everywhere. Cell phones, that was the logo.
So again, what I think James Gunn is doing with the Superman set photos, with Superman set in general, is if we are getting a flashback to the 70s or whatever, it's going to be a flashback only. But I think they're making a timeless Superman again. Because, I mean, we saw another set photo of a bunch of military equipment, and all that equipment is kind of modern day equipment. So, again, everyone on their mom who was on the internet saying, oh my God, Superman is set in the 70s, everything's ruined. I don't think it is. I don't think for a second it is. I think what we're going to get is very similar to what we got in Superman Returns, where Metropolis felt modern but also old-fashioned at the same time. Because
the way that New York feels, the way that Chicago feels.
I don't know if anyone has actually ever been to the East Coast. We've ever walked around Philadelphia or Washington, D.C., and you see people wearing trench coats and hats, and you're like, what decade is this? That's exactly it. Like, certain big cities have a soul and a style that just doesn't go away. And I feel like that's what James Gunn is trying to get here, is that this is a different, timeless nature to Superman. And it's not going to be set in the 70s or 80s. It's going to be like the Gotham TV show, where the show, you're like, is this the 80s? But they've got cell phones. So it's going to be like that, where it feels timeless because of these weird aesthetic choices.
Right.
Like, oh, there's a tube TV and an iPhone. You know, it's going to be like,
fine. That. Yeah, they can have all that stuff.
So I think people who are freaking out saying that it's going to be set in the 70s, I don't think there's anything to worry about. I think the set photos, yes, the Daily Planet does look a little old fashioned. But if you look at the style of it there, it looks like it's been something that was built in the 60s that's still existing today.
Right. It looks like a newspaper of record that's been around for 50 years.
It's got some city miles on it, and it's modern. So I don't think for a second that anyone needs to worry about this film being set at any point other than present.
Cool.
So I just think it's set. I think it's set in a timeless present, like a present day Superman with a timeless feel. Just like I said, just like Superman Returns, where everything in the Daily Planet felt like it was set in the 70s to make it feel like it was connected to the 70s films, but they were still like astronauts and Cape Canaveral and TVs and cell phones. Like,
who released the images of the Daily Planet?
Oh, they're filming outdoors now, so it's coming out.
And then who took the picture of the Samsung poster?
Fans walking around the sets because they're building them out, doing outdoor shots. So we're probably going to see a picture of the cast very soon.
Yeah,
because that's what's happening right now. But like the Daily Planet, a lot of people are another new thing that people are pissed off about. That I wish I understood why people are mad because one second they're like, I hate this, and the next second they're like, I hate this for this reason. Like the people are just grasping onto things to be pissed off about. But they released a picture of the Daily Planet globe. Let me see if I can find it. And the globe has that timeless look to it. Let me grab it here. Present, share screen. Yeah. So it does look like it's not going to be on the roof, everybody, unfortunately. Or maybe it is going to be on the roof. Maybe they've got two. But
the second one's going to be CG, but that's the practical one that they built.
Right. And that's the big disco ball hanging in front of the door. But I think people are like just getting mad for the sake of getting mad because like Zack Snyder's Daily Planet didn't have a globe on the ceiling and these same people didn't care. But now that James Gunn is not putting a globe on the roof, people are now caring. So it's just like, guys, just what are you actually mad about?
I hope that the Snyderverse can come to terms with itself, because if they ruin the Superman movie, then we're not going to get
anything ever again.
All of those other projects, that Game of Thrones, Amazonian show, all of that stuff's going to get canceled or changed to different projects.
No, so it's a sad thing that I keep seeing with fandoms in general, where most fandoms don't tend to rally behind a project until the project is over, and then they start getting violent about their rallying around the project. Like I've said it before, like I love the Amazing Spider-Man films, but I mean, I know you didn't, but nobody screamed, I want the Amazing Spider-Man 3 until there were 3 or 4 films into Tom Holland and they realized the Amazing Spider-Mans were better.
It's kind of like January 6th. They just wanted so much more Trump. They weren't going to get him anymore. They just had to show how angry they were.
Yeah, maybe that's all the fans are becoming right now. And
maybe
I think at this point, I mean, the movie's going to come out. I think people are going to see it, and I legitimately think that James Gunn is going to do something that's going to resonate with general audiences. And I know as much as people are like, oh, well, Man of Steel was the highest grossing Superman film of all time. Yeah, it was. But it didn't make the money that it should have.
Do you think that the community will hate him more if like your mom and your dad and everyone in your family loves that movie, and comic book people are like, yeah, it's a good movie, but like they didn't have the planet on the roof?
Yeah, I think people are going to nitpick. I mean, so Superman 1, the first Superman movie, Superman 78, made only $300 million at the box office. And that's why people they're comparing it, saying, oh, Man of Steel made more than 300 million, so it's the biggest and bestest. But if you look at this adjusted for inflation, $300 million in the 78 box office is well over $1 billion for today's standards. Superman 78 is still the best grossing Superman film when you compare budget and inflation. I don't think people are giving it enough credit.
And cultural impact.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was the first movie that made people realize superhero movies can exist on film.
Right. I mean, it opened the door for everything. It opened the door. And then I think, Batman 89 showed that superheroes could be dark. I mean, you can just go down the line of these tentpole movies and now, I don't know, maybe there could be a resurgence.
Superman 78 was pretty dark too. I mean,
that's true. That's very true.
You had the first movie where Lex kills that FBI agent in the stairwell, and then you have him literally kill Lois Lane and Superman screaming in pain and turning back time. And that movie was a little dark for a kid.
Yeah, I guess that is pretty dark.
Yeah. I think people just, when they think Superman and the 70s Superman, they think Superman that scene with Superman and the little girl where he gives her the cat. That was the most lighthearted scene of the entire movie. The rest of the movie is Lex Luthor using chain guns trying to kill Superman, or putting a pimp chain of kryptonite on him and trying to drown him in his pool.
It's one of my favorite scenes. I love that you called it a pimp chain. He does. He tries to drown him in the pool.
Yeah, it was funny because the reason behind the pimp chain was literally because he needed a heavy chain to sink him to the bottom of the pool when he had no powers. It made sense, but it was such a funny look. It's like Flavor Flav with his clock, but it was a giant rock of kryptonite.
Well, I can see your clock, and you have a family that needs your hands and as much energy as you have to give them. So let's come on, big fella. It's getting dark outside. Let's go to bed.
You're gonna do the Hulk thing.
That's how it works, isn't it?
But on that note, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today on this episode. I have been your host, Taylor Murphy. My co-host, Michael Santel, he's always here with me.
Hi, everyone.
We're going to try to do this as much as we can. And if for any reason I can't be here, I'm going to make sure that Michael has a co-host to sit down with him. I know that one of our other TCN bodies wants to do an interview episode and is going to need Michael's assistance. So you may actually have two Michaels recording an episode together, which may be a little funny.
Michael and Michael do a podcast. I love it.
Yeah, it should be fun. But we're going to thank you so much for being here again. If you want to help us keep the lights on, you want to help us right now, obviously with me having a baby, money's gotten a lot tighter. The podcast is still an expensive endeavor, so please help us out. Like, subscribe, comment, go to the Patreon, the Culture Nerd, help us keep these lights on. If you're sitting at home, if you're sitting in front of your TV, scan that QR code. Come over to the socials. Come bug me. Come say hi. Periodically, I have been sharing pictures of my son on the socials. People are seeing that. Fun fact. Everyone who longtime followers knows that my wife is Mexican, and this kid looks like he got all of those genes and none of mine. So it's very funny how it turned out. So we have one very white kid and one very not white kid. It's a really funny house dynamic right now.
And he's going to love the Acolyte because he's going to see himself represented on screen, and that's an A+.
No, he's not. He's going to like the good Star Wars films because he's going to see Obi. No, anyone who says that R2-D2 or Obi-Wan Kenobi are not like, everyone knows Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, he sounds Mexican. And then you've got R2-D2, which is Mexican. I mean, come on.
All droids are polyamorous and open. They have open ports and closed ports. Robots do freaky stuff. They hook up with humans just like they hooked up with the Millennium Falcon. That is a known fact.
I just know that R2-D2 just stuck his junk in everything. And that was everything, including the Falcon a few times. Just say, hey, what's up?
A couple of times.
Yeah.
Shocking. They would shock it. They went, wow, and then fell inside in the second movie.
I think that wow meant something else, Michael. That was his wow. Yeah.
It's a Mario wahoo.
Anyways, thank you all for joining us today. Have yourself a great week. We will be here next week and keeping up the nonsensical talk. Again, thank you for joining us. Bye, everyone.
Adios.